Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exclusive interview with Kamal Dutta, Managing Director, India, Skillsoft. The COVID-19 global pandemic has disrupted businesses worldwide, and many companies are facing challenges that they had never seen before. In the wake of this, several immediate workplace shifts were required that included business continuity planning, working from home, virtual events and collaboration, leading remote teams, and many more. These are uncertain times, and the aftermath will not be limited to 2020, but linger on for a few more years to come. The only way organizations can cope and stay motivated is through its leadership. A leadership that is focused yet flexible, adaptable to unforeseen future events, and their impact on both business and people while continuing to drive progress. To deep dive into this and more, we have with us today Kamal Dutta, Managing Director, India Skillsoft. Prior to Skillsoft, Kamal has been working as Managing Director of Asia Growth Countries for HPE Software, which included India, SEA, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Korea. Skillsoft is also a presenting partner for People Matters TechHR India 2020, where we will be delving into adaptable tech for a reset in our world of work in detail. A very warm welcome to you, Kamal, and thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thanks, Shweta. It's a pleasure always.
Great, pleasure. So, Kamal, as we've been talking about the unprecedented challenges brought forward by this pandemic, 2020 has been a tough year altogether. So, how do you think it will impact the way skills and learning need to evolve?
Yeah, I think, there is always a silver lining of times. So I would like to start in a positive note. HR leaders and L&D heads over the past 6 months have faced a storm of, unprecedented disruption from a global pandemic to economic uncertainties. And this, in many ways, is really the biggest reset of our times. We can't think of anything else. And L&D teams, in my mind, are in a unique position to lead and be central to this organization's effort to build for the new normal. Now, for that, they need to adopt new strategies and tools to deliver. They have to look at alignment to business and how they are delivering business value by building a more resilient and adaptable workforce that can accelerate growth and innovation. I will be talking about some of these in my session, where I will give more insights on some of the top themes that they can look to adopt to not only survive but thrive, as well as react, respond, and to certain extent rebuild for a future that we have to jointly reimagine.
Great, thanks for sharing that, Kamal. I think, yes, we're looking forward to your session at People Matters TechHR India. And it is indeed time to reimagine, reset, rebuild, and reinvent a lot of what we've been doing so far. So, those thoughts, looking forward to hearing more on that during our event. So, Kamal, we're talking about how COVID-19, it has shown that organizations will have to equip themselves to deal with the rapid rate of change and all sorts of crises. So, what do you think are the key characteristics of a leader who can lead through a crisis?
Yeah, this is a very pet topic of mine. So maybe I will be a bit more descriptive than usual. Now, leadership has not been a constant even earlier. There have been multiple disruptions, including digital transformation, digital disruptions, business and supply chain constraints, trade wars, and so on and so forth. Now, on top of that, we have a pandemic and we have economic instability. But in all of this, I think leaders have, built some level of resilience through the challenge of change that all this has brought in. I think there were certain key characteristics which were always there. And those we have, as a company, been looking at this very, very carefully. So in my mind, there are some 8 to 10 competencies which have become more relevant than ever before, which includes things like building and leading a successful teams. And that was always there. But more importantly now, to create a successful business execution culture. We are all working remotely, so how do you build on that? This is also a time when we are increasingly telling leaders to use their emotional intelligence and lead with EQ as well as IQ. Um, so to that extent, there is a need for not only the top leaders, but everybody to do a lot of coaching of ensuring that their teams are doing critical thinking and have cognitive flexibility. How do they, do problem solving and decision making in these times? Because there is no playbook that they can apply from their previous jobs. You have to write a new playbook. You have to do some critical thinking. You have to use your cognitive flexibilities, solve problems, and take the right decisions based on data. So, in my mind, for the agile leader of tomorrow and for the new normal, it will be about perseverance and flexibility. But at the same time, you have to lead virtually now. You have to think strategically. The accountable leader will be the one who leads and gives that confidence to his teams, his customers, his partners, that he has a vision, he has a strategy. He is seen as a leader who is still developing his people for the new world, for the new normal, building the right sets of skill sets and competences required in the new normal world. So, to that extent, I think he has to lead with innovation. Some of the more things that have changed recently is organization across the globe have seen what happened with George Floyd incidents, and there is a need for embracing diversity in their leadership. People at all levels need to remove unconscious bias that exist in our society and in organizations. And finally, leaders will have to continue to rebuild and repivot their organizational vision while managing conflicts, taking sound judgment, setting and meeting priorities, and leading across cultures. So it's a tough time, but I think leaders have to lead with mindfulness, with value, with ethics, and lastly, you need to have an executive presence.
Yeah.
More important than anything in a virtual Zoom meeting like this, how do you build your executive presence, your poise, and your natural um, gates will be important as you lead through this disruption. I know it's a long winded answer, but I wanted to cover as much as I could in
No.
this short time.
No, I think it was absolutely very insightful. I think the whole entire point that you made on how leadership has to be more human, more connected, more empathetic, in these times specifically, I think that's very important. And that's going to be key for organizations who are going to sail through this. But their leaders will be playing a very pivotal role in this. So, Kamal, thank you for sharing that. Very insightful. So now I move on to our HR and L&D leaders, Kamal. What should HR and L&D leaders focus on, given that they're at the front of this crisis, and they have to ensure that the workforce becomes more adaptable and future-proof at the same time?
Yeah, I think if you look at HR and L&D folks, I think they are, as I have said, they are pretty central to this theme of organizational transformation. I think first objective will be to ensure that their employees are safe. So there is focus on wellness, there is focus on their safety, ensuring that they are compliant with some of the workplace changes which COVID introduces. So they need to work on employee handbook and leaders handbook for COVID times to ensure workplace safety, wellness, how to manage through this social distancing norms and the norms given by say ICMR and all our medical institutions in this country. So safety and workplace security is first. The second area I think they need to double down on is really business compliance and security, particularly because we have seen a tremendous rise in remote workers being mails IDs being targeted and their remote systems being targeted. They are not protected under a firewall anymore. Previously, it was CIO responsibility because you could build technology to protect your employees from data thefts. Now it's HR and L&D's responsibility to create the right awareness so that employees know how to protect their data and to protect themselves from cyber attacks. I
Yes.
think that's very important. So wellness, protection, and the third that I can say in a limited amount of time that we have is that they need to plan for the next scale of transformation for this new normal that we have been talking about. And it's not only about technology, you have to look across leadership, you have to look across technology, across digital transformation, business, productivity. Collaboration is a very, very important theme that it seems to be emerging. So they need to invest on the right tools for collaboration, for learning, etc. But when they have to do all this, the most important task they have is, given all the plethoras of calls and webinars happening all over the world, there's too much of it. They really need to be mindful that the biggest job they have is to curate for each and every role as much as possible, to ensure the effectivity, to ensure the business outcomes, to ensure business goals are met. But more importantly, this is the time for HR leaders and L&D leaders to have work more closely with business than ever before, to see what are the challenges they have and how to mitigate them. In my mind, my last piece of advice to HR leaders and L&D will be mindful of the technologies, but think of employees not in brackets and silos anymore. Because with increased automation, employees are insecure. You need to give them the confidence. You need to think of employees as T-shaped employees, where they can have multidisciplinary skills, where they have the roadmap to move from one role to an adjacent role, which allows them to progress their careers in the companies of their choice. And they will serve you well if you do that. So this is a very important time. But again, because you are central to this transformation, they have great responsibility and accountability.
Absolutely. I think such a great point on preparing your employees for this uncertain times, and the kind of skills we saw were relevant maybe are no longer relevant. So how do you upskill them? How do you make them agile for the future? How do you ensure their safety? So I think they're at as you said, center of everything are the HR and L&D leaders, and how we sail through these times will be very much dependent on how they deal with these crises. So thanks, Kamal. Thank you for sharing that again. And my final question to you is, what are you looking forward to the most? What are you most looking forward to at TechHR India 2020?
For the first time, Skillsoft is a presenting partner for TechHR. We have always been an important partner for People Matters, and it's a both-way partnership. But I think in this time, I'm very excited for Skillsoft to be the presenting partner for TechHR India 2020. I know it's a virtual conference. It's 5 days of curated learning, which I'm looking forward to. I am always sure of People Matters will produce very, very insightful sessions. I am very impressed with the thought leaders, global thought leaders, who are part of your speakers and your panels. So I think this is an opportunity for everybody to participate, contribute, and to jointly and collectively, as a community, rewrite and reimagine the playbook for the new normal.
Great. On that thought, yes, it is time as a community to rewrite, reimagine, and the playbook for HR tech, for our organizations, and for actually the future of workplaces going forward. So, Kamal, thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts in detail at People Matters Tech HR India 2020 next week. So, thank you once again, Kamal, for giving us this time.
Thanks, Sweta, and all the best to People Matters team for a great and successful event.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Kamal.
Thank
See you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.